you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks, it's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the early season that makes official. Welcome to 60 years and 2,700 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. Yes, we've been doing this for some time and all eternity or something like that. And I think we're working on eternity. We're just going to keep right on going. They'll just kind of put a mic down there in the grave with me, and the podcast will be just worms eating my flesh or something. I don't know. But go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, facebook.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places on the internet. Today, I have a fun story that we're going to be talking about from an amazing author. Scott Eden joins us on the show. He's the author of the book called A Killing in Cannabis, a true story of love, murder, and California weed. This sounds like one of those problems somebody's got to solve or something. But yeah, Scott Eden is an award-winning investigative journalist whose work is focused on crime, corruption, injustice, business, science, technology, and the dark side of sports, or what we call around the Chris Voss Show Fridays. He's written for ESPN, the magazine, GQ, Wired, The Atavist, Incorporated, The Believer, and many other publications, and his stories have been anthologized in the Best American Sports Writing and in The Believer's Best of Collection, Read Hard. He is the author of Touchdown Jesus, and he lives in New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Scott. How are you?
Great to be here.
Touchdown Jesus. That's a great title or interesting title. I can think of another ways to use that book.
That was about Notre Dame football. Very different.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Certainly was about my Raiders. So, Scott, give us the .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
My website, scotteden.net, has my bio and most of my major work over the past 20 years. Mm-hmm. So you can find the links there.
So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside this book.
Well, I mean, it's a true crime book. It's a story about a murder and a murder investigation that occurred in Santa Cruz, California.
Murder, you say?
Indeed. So, but it's also it takes place in the setting of the California weed business. Uh-huh. So, I hope the story is like a very compelling whodunit, because the sheriff's office of Santa Cruz County did a great job. It was a very complex case. Took a long time. I came to the story about a year after the four alleged perpetrators were arrested. I don't want to give away too much of I don't want to, some spoiler alerts, I guess, here, but I came to it about a year after they were arrested. And, kind of immediately, the thing that interested me most was, the killing took place in Santa Cruz, California, which I don't know if listeners know. It's a mountain range that essentially forms Silicon Valley.
Oh, wow.
And so it's part of the Bay Area.
Oh.
And so the murder victim was a tech entrepreneur sort of Silicon Valley. And then when California legalized weed in 2016, it caused this explosion of interest. People across the world, and especially in Silicon Valley, saw it as another financial opportunity, the dawn of a new industry. Mm-hmm. And Tushar Atre, the tech exec at the center of the book, was the same. So it's kind of a story about this transition, from prohibition. Weed had been illegal for, almost a century. And then but it's now emerging from that state by state. And finally, California was somewhat later to the game. They had a medical marijuana regime, but that was more of a gray market / black market. So this is a story, of the chaotic transition that kind of occurred, as prohibition was ending. And, California weed is, it's not just a business. And it's not just in California, across the country, the world. It's not just a business. It's not just a consumer product. It's not just a recreational intoxicant. It's a culture unto itself. Wow. It has its own folklore. It has its own folk heroes. It's its own culture. And so almost immediately I saw the book, as the story of this crime as exposing a kind of clash of cultures. Weed is so intricately intertwined with California history, just as much as showbiz or tech or surfing or music. And so it was a kind of a clash of cultures between this one that had existed in the shadows, from hippie do-gooders to, professional outlaws, kind of clashing with these, MBA wielding, Silicon Valley kind of squares who were coming into the business to try to disrupt it and create a legal industry.
I was always kind of wondering how that would kind of turn out, transferring from illegal weed to, illegal weed and, all that stuff. So it's kind of interesting how that can play out.
I hope so.
I mean, I guess, can you tell us what his motivation was? I don't want to give away too much from the book. Like, I mean, it sounds like the guy who killed him had his own weed setup, so he should have had like money. Did he really need money to kill him?
You mean Tushar Atre? He was the murder victim. He was a millionaire tech executive. He had his own smallish by Silicon Valley standards. I mean, he wasn't like a billionaire venture capitalist or a billionaire startup founder. He had a very successful like web design firm. He had founded that like right at the beginning of the .com boom, so he had gotten in at the right time. The .com boom didn't like destroy his company. He kept going, and he made a lot of money from that. So he was sort of, a kind of B-lister of Silicon Valley, but being a B-lister in Silicon Valley still means you're very rich. But he had done it for 20 years. He kind of had, worked in the shadow maybe of his mother, who was a very well-known IBM computer scientist. And so he had kind of gotten set up through his mom in Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. But he had been doing it for 20 years. So I think part of it was boredom. Yeah. And in addition to just seeing like, oh, this is a financial opportunity that many other Silicon Valley people did too. He was not alone in that.
All right, I guess I read one of the reports on this wrong. They had killed him at his own marijuana facility in the mountains, I guess.
Right.
I got confused as whether or not who the killers was there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was kidnapped from his home, and then killed he lived on a beautiful oceanfront house in Santa Cruz. He was a big surfer, so it was right on the surf breaks. And he was taken from from his house in the middle of the night, and then they found his body later on raw land that he owned, like in the redwood forest at the top of the Santa Cruz Mountains. Later the next day. But he was creating a legal business in Santa Cruz in California. He was a tech guy, so he kind of got into the high tech the sector of cannabis that is the highest tech, which is called extraction or manufacturing. It's where you take the plant and in a laboratory, you kind of chemically extract the THC or the essential oil. It's kind of like a modern version of creating hashish, which is a strong, potent resin, the resins of the plant. So he was doing that, and he had a super high tech lab that he was setting up. But he was also part of the story is, legal weed it's hard. It turned out that they had so regulated, so the taxes and fees are so high. Yeah. The temptation to dip into the black market is strong. Yeah. So not only did he have like a legal lab facility that he was trying to develop and set up. He's a startup founder, but he had also concurrently a black market unlicensed weed grow, in this forest setting. That's kind of where the love story also comes in. He wound up going into business in cannabis with a woman that he fell in love with, and she herself was a grower of weed, unlicensed, in the Emerald Triangle of California, which is, not Santa Cruz, but similar. But your audience may be familiar with Humboldt County and the Northern California regions, which is sort of like the cannabis breadbasket, historically, where most of the weed in the country was grown. Wow! So she had experience there.
So we got a love story, we got murder, and all that good stuff. Sometimes real life is stranger than fiction.
That is for sure.
I know one of the other problems the weed businesses had, I don't know if they've ever resolved it. I don't keep up on the weed business, but they for a long time, and I think it's still true, they couldn't keep their money in banks, so they had to
That's
keep
right.
those vaults of cash.
I mean, that was one of the things that Tushar had to deal with himself. I mean, you can't quite get good banking, because it's federally illegal to this day. So you can't have interstate commerce. So that's one of the reasons. That's probably the reason that the black market is so huge. Is that if you're growing weed in California, by law, you can only sell it to stores in California.
Mm-hmm.
But the temptation is strong to it's totally illegal over here in, Texas or
sells better probably.
And therefore the price is higher. Or in New York State legalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have. It's still such an immature industry that they don't have enough grow houses. They don't have enough greenhouses to grow enough weed for all of the people who in New York want to buy weed. So where are they going to get it from? Here's all the stuff being grown in California. Wow. So but that is all by definition black market. I mean, you're essentially a trafficker if you're selling weed from California to New York.
I'm seeing an article here where the guy writes a letter from jail. The murderer, and he says, "I'm not an evil murderer." He took a man's life. It makes you an evil murderer. That's kind of why they put you on trial, eh?
The trials are still ongoing, actually.
Are they really?
I don't want to spoil it again too much, but there were 4 people arrested. Originally, they kind of went in as a team, broke into his house, and they 4 were arrested. And then originally they were going to be tried together, but then much later on, in the kind of as the gears of justice ground on, they separated them into 4 separate trials. 3 of the trials have already occurred, and there's still 1 left to go, which I think is ongoing, maybe even now in Santa Cruz County. The first 3 guys were convicted, though. At trial.
It sounds like was one of the motives. He might have cash up to $1 million at home.
Oh yes,
according to some of the people. Right. Yeah,
which goes back to the banking situation.
Yeah. Well, it's an unfortunate thing. What drew you to the story? I mean, you've mostly stayed in kind of the realm of sports, I think. Is that true?
Yeah, I got my start though as I worked for Dow Jones, so I covered Wall Street for a number of years. Then started writing for ESPN, the magazine. Always investigative material though. But actually, there's sort of an ESPN connection. So one of my closest editors at ESPN moved over, took a new job at Inc. magazine, which is a business publication focused on entrepreneurs. And he had come across, because Tushar, the murder victim at the center of the book, wasn't this successful entrepreneur, and was migrating from tech into cannabis. Had run across the story, and as a magazine article assignment, my editor had said, is there anything here? Do you want to look into this? And it took me about 1 or 2 phone calls before I saw that this was a window into this crazy, interesting world with a lot of colorful characters. You have like legacy pot tycoons who are trying to go legit. You got meth traffickers from Salinas who are trying to also get into the weed business. You have. And then you have Silicon Valley people. So it's like this incredible mixture of business people from both sides of the law trying to position themselves to make money off of what they thought was going to be a gold rush.
Oh yeah, I mean it's really crazy. It's surprising they haven't. When did Vegas get legal weed? I think 2017.
Oh, Nevada, right?
Yeah.
Around the same time as California. That's right.
Yeah, I think fully legal. California had been medical marijuana. It was always so funny. I go down and see my friends in California, and they go, "Hey man, you want a weed card? You just go in there and tell them you have migraines." And I'm like, "Don't they do like a professional medical analysis that whether or not you really have what you claim you have?" No, the guy just kind of coaches a little bit.
Well, they couldn't though, because it's not it's not an FDA approved medicine, so there's no reason for a prescription. You get like the recommendation.
Yeah. The guy just looks at you and goes, "You're human." Okay, next.
Right. Yeah.
But it was funny how they would tell me how their weed interviews ago with the doctor, and I'm like, why don't you just have a thing where you just mail him a check and give him a credit card and it's done.
Yeah.
Hey, could you do some investigating reporting on my Raiders? Number one.
Oh boy.
I think there's a whole book as to whether or not that young lady who is dating or married to Mark Davis. He said she never knew he had money and she truly loves him or something. That's a whole book right there, I think. I'm gonna take
a note here. As a note to self.
And you're gonna throw it away. And then you also do some. I mean, you could. This is a multi-faceted book like the one you just did. And then could we do a book on the Raiders as to what the fuck is going on? I mean, we now have, what is it, 5 coaches on the payroll at this point? It's the owners. So maybe we can get Mark Davis to hand the team to a decent owner.
I don't think the Davis family will ever.
I don't think they will
relinquish the controls there.
I just need to switch to the Broncos, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's just insane. I mean, I don't think anybody has more coaches on the payroll than we do. And we don't even have a coach.
How long did Pete Carroll last?
1 year.
Wow.
Season. It's Pete fucking Carroll. Didn't he take the Seahawks? And I think he didn't take somebody else, but
USC.
Yeah,
national championships. And then he's like one of the few who's won both a college national championship and a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's hard to do that. I think Bill Belichick's finding that out. He's trying to get Tom Brady to go back to college. I mean, we even have Tom Brady and we can't fix this. That's how broken how broken are the fucking Raiders? Like, I can't remember who it was. He played with Tampa Bay and took him to the Super Bowl. He was the big troublemaker, and we used to talk privately on Twitter. One of my friends introduced me to him, and he did all of his career, and he was the troublemaker in the NFL back then. But he did all of his season at Tampa Bay, and then he did 1 year or 2 at Raiders at the end, because we take all the rejects at the end.
Sure.
And I go, why? What the fuck? Why do we have 300 yards of fucking penalties and we lose games because we have more penalties than touchdowns? And he's like, they're still playing 1970s football, man. They still rock them, sock them, bruise them, pull penalties in the scrum.
They're smoking cigarettes on the sidelines.
They're still, that's how Al Davis ran, and that's how Al Davis has been running that team for all these times. But yeah. And then I think there's a whole nother book on Mark Davis's haircut. So anyway, I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, Mark, but I'm glad you got the hot chick. Anything more you want to tell us before we go out, Scott, on your amazing book? Anything future coming up too?
No, I'm on. I need my next project, man. So maybe I'm not going to throw the note out.
Yeah.
Maybe, I'm gonna poke around a little bit.
You got a haircut. You got multiple coaches. You get the story of how we paid that one guy, like it was $100 million or something. He was a first round pick and he was a total dud out. I mean, yeah, Raiders, you got a whole thing there.
I think Pete Carroll would talk.
Oh, right? Maybe. I know. Who's the guy before? Who's the guy we paid like $100 million for 10 years? The little squirrely guy. He's got a lot of energy. I forget his name. He's a great guy. In fact, I think his son is on the Raiders now. But yeah, he's just sitting around getting paid, and it's just crazy. This is crazy. Every time my team does something, I go, hide the knives. But the thing I do love about Raiders, and this is one of the good things about the Raiders, is they're pretty much done within the first 3 games. So I don't have to watch the rest of the season.
No emotional investment. So there's no.
Yeah, I can go live my life.
For you.
All the Bills people, they got to get toyed with all season long, and all the other teams, and the Browns and stuff. My guys, they get it over quick. It's just done. You're like,
or Notre Dame football. I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Oh yeah,
that was brutal.
Yeah,
this year. I don't know if you.
I don't follow college, but they're supposed to be a great team always. Really,
they are. Well, but this year they were left out of the playoffs. It was a total atrocity.
Somebody's getting fired.
I don't think. No, someone should get fired from the college football playoff committee. That's for sure. So
if this all the stuff's still being round out in the courts, do you see yourself doing a follow-up book for maybe how it turns out? Might be interesting.
Probably not. In many ways, there's a great whodunit at the center of the book, but in some ways, that's like the least important part of the book. Really, it's like this story about, like I said, like the transition, but then like the human opera, like the nitty gritty of building a business in this really unorthodox industry, which is formerly criminal, now legal, and having to deal with all of these colorful characters as well.
Yeah.
That's what I was really interested in. Mostly was like his career in cannabis before he was taken from his house and tragically murdered.
Maybe the Raiders are smoking too much cannabis. I don't know. Oh. Anyway, sounds like a wonderful, exciting book. I like how the front picture looks like a cannabis bag or coffee bag.
I hope people judge the book by the cover.
By the cover. There's a little bit of blood on it too. So there will be blood, folks, and murder. She wrote. So Scott, thank you very much for coming on the show. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
www.scotteden.net.
All right. Sounds good, Scott. Thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
I had a great time. Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Watch for the future books from Scott as to what the fuck happened to the Raiders. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, guys, A Killing in Cannabis, a true story of love, murder, and California weed, out February 3rd, 2026. You can pre-order it now and be the first one on your block to read it in your book club. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, there we go, Scott. Maybe you could